My guest today is one of the busiest musicians in all of music. He's in the band Transatlantic, he's in Flying Colors, and he's an extremely talented solo artist. He's back with a new prog album with the Neal Morse Band. I'd like to welcome back Neal Morse. Hello.
Hello.
Hey there, Mr. Morse. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm great. So happy to be speaking with you again.
All right.
You know, we spoke about a year ago when you were putting out the Transatlantic. And, just before the Prog cruise and all that. And prior to that, the previous year we had talked about was pretty quiet. 2014 was pretty insane. It looked like you almost released 17 albums or something. So, how did you pack so much into last year and you're just keeping it going?
Yeah, well, I kind of wanted to slow down, but, I just prayed about it and I felt like we should continue on and put this album out and do the tour. I was kind of thinking maybe it would be good to give it a rest a little bit, but I felt very strongly like that we should press on. And also the only window that Mike had to tour was this late February, March window, and so that meant it's like a domino effect. If you're going to tour in March, that means the record's got to come out in February, which means we have to deliver it by December 1st.
I got it. Yeah.
And all of that. So I'm just really grateful that it all seems to have worked out so well.
So when you figure out that timeline, do you scramble for ideas on, demo tapes or, iPhone stuff or whatever, or you're confident, don't worry about it. We'll get it. The ideas will come.
Well, by that time, in September, we had all the basic ideas, and I knew all the ideas were there, and it was all good by that time. It was just a matter of whether we could really fit it into all of our schedules. I had the Flying Colors tour, and then I had to get all the stuff for Morse Fest, and also there was a big release coming out at that time. There was the Kaleidoscope, the live Transatlantic was coming out, and I had a lot of work associated with that. And then I had a whole week of vacation plan with my family, so it was just a matter of like, hey guys, how's your schedule? Do you think we can pull this off? And
right.
Obviously we all decided that we could do it, and we did actually do it, but it was right down to the wire, man.
Very cool. Listen, it doesn't sound like it. And I know I've read a lot about the writing sessions or kind of as a group and everything. So tell me about how that came together. How much of it did you bring in advance? And when you guys sat together, what sort of changed and evolved?
Well, I didn't bring hardly anything in.
Oh, really? Okay.
We used Agenda from the songs from November sessions, but it was really unusual. I felt like I should just make a lot of room for the guys, and I'm really glad that I did, because the album came out great and has such a nice fresh feel to it. I think because of that, largely because of the input of these other factors, and everybody really contributed a lot. Everybody did, and everyone's well represented, and I think it's a fantastic thing. Collaboration brings a freshness that you can't put your finger on. There's just something about it.
Well, you've sort of built the last few years on that, right, with Flying Colors and Transatlantic, and working with, not just you singing, but other guys, sort of everybody taking their turn. So was that how getting Eric and Bill vocally involved on this album, is that sort of how that came along?
I just felt like it was the right thing to do. Well, first of all, they're so good. Whenever you're working with people and they have these amazing strengths, you want to use them,
right?
As much as possible. And so that was a big part of it. But I think we all felt like, I remember Mike saying that, he felt like there should be a lot of trading of the lead vocals, and it should be much more of a band feel with different singers. And I think that's something that is a bit lost today. I don't know how much you hear that anymore. It was very common when I was growing up that, most groups had at least two singers, sometimes three, and they'd all be, trading off the lead vocals. And I think that's cool. It mixes it up a lot.
You're right. If you think about it, the Who, Fleetwood Mac, Beatles, Eagles, etc. You could name a dozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So is that was sort of how calling it the Neal Morse Band, I guess, came together as well because of everybody having a little bit more contribution?
Yeah, and it was really the concept initially was like, hey, let's get together and see what happens. It was kind of a grand experiment right from the beginning in my mind. Let's see what happens if we get together and just write in the room and really collaborate authentically, and this is the result, and I think it's very special.
Were the lyrics written also as a group during the whole writing process?
Not so much. There were some lyrical ideas that were already out there. Like, a lot of times what you have when you're on the lyrics is you'll have, maybe some key lines and then you're la-da-daing all the rest,
Right.
So we had like, here at the waterfall, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da,
Right.
and I feel like I'm alive again, blah, 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 And so you have to fill in all the verses and the gaps, and a lot of times you'll have the main gist of it, and then so that kind of informs the whole rest of the lyric.
Speaking about the sort of the looser vibe, right from the beginning of the album, the call, sort of with that vocal thing that you do is a big change from a lot of the other albums that you have that sometimes start off with orchestra swells and kind of build up and stuff. Was any of that sort of conscious in terms of how you wanted to approach the album, or do things just sort of happen as they happen? And
No, they just happened as they happened.
Yeah.
We originally didn't have that acapella entrance. We were going to bring that part in just at the end, how it comes in towards the end of the call.
Right.
And I think Bill said, hey, why don't we try just singing this acapella for the intro? And as I recall, he had a little bit of a time kind of selling that to Mike, as I remember. And then once we sang it and we tried singing it in the room, and then Mike went, oh, yeah, totally, let's do it.
Right. And bringing it back in at the end is really one of the special parts on the whole album, I think. So
I think so too. I love that part, and I feel it's a timely message too. That's a message for people right now to, leave it all behind you. It's time to let it go. Whatever's troubling them. Like maybe a season. Hopefully, it's a season of healing for people.
Well, the album as a whole, I think, is really positive and very uplifting and almost I had a little bit of a Spock's beard kind of vibe. I think a little bit.
Cool.
There's a lot of your faith influence in all your albums, and you're very vocal about that. On this album in particular, I noticed no specific mention of Jesus or God, or although I think it's very suggestive and all over the album. Is that something that is ever conscious in your writing, or it's sort of the music just goes where it goes, or do you even pay attention to that specifically?
Well, as you're writing the song, you just try and make that song what it wants to be,
Right.
And that's all I can really say about it. When I'm writing the lyrics, when I'm writing when I was writing Testimony or Testimony 2, I'm writing about a specific events. And a lot of times on the concept albums, I'm writing about a specific thought or a concept. I don't know. This album seemed like it wanted to be maybe a little more vague about those things, although I think it's all in there.
Definitely. You can, it leaves it open to a person's interpretation, I think, which is great.
Whatever people can receive from God through what we do, that's what we're excited about. And I don't know, sometimes it's, I think God veils himself. Sometimes he's very plain. Sometimes he hides himself, And so I think it's okay to kind of feel that out. And sometimes I speak very plainly about the Lord to people, and sometimes I'll just kind of testify and be a little bit. It depends on the situation,
Yeah, totally. One of the things I'm always fascinated about, and I think, at least for me and for a lot of prog fans that I know, you're sort of, for lack of a better word, mastering of the long epic. Has become somewhat of a signature, and I imagine might bring a lot of pressure when you're writing an album. Well, I got to do one of these again. But, is that ever a challenge? And how do you manage to do one of those like Alive Again, which is again another brilliant, 26 plus minute song. How do you manage to not repeat any parts you've done, or always find a new, fresh approach to it?
With a little help from me friends.
Do they ever catch you saying, "Oh no, we used that on the last album" or anything like that?
Oh, totally. I think the term that Mike used was, "I got to throw a flag on the field." There's a flag. Yeah, somebody would throw out an idea. Not always just me, it would be somebody would throw out an idea and it's like, "Oh, I think that's too much like this," or I throw flags on my own field. I'll be like, "Hey guys, I'm kind of digging this, but is it too much like something else?"
Right.
You're always trying to, try to look to the people around you to try and, they remember. I don't really remember everything that I've done. I don't listen to my own music that much.
Right.
Yeah. After I'm done with it, I'll put on a record, every now and again, but I don't really listen to my own music that much. And so I'll forget, and people will say, "Oh, dude, that's exactly like something you did, 5 albums ago or something." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks. Let's do something else."
Right. No, it's an amazing thing where you listen and you as a fan, if you know these albums and you just don't hear repetition. So I think that's quite an achievement. I'm curious, when you're doing an album and now you finished it and you're doing the press and you're getting ready, once the release date, which is coming up February 10th, and the album's on sale now, pre-order on your website, radiantrecords.com. What's that first day like, and those first few days? Is it sort of a release, album's done, you can move on, or there's a more stress on top of you during that moment? What's it like?
Oh, it's total release for me. I mean, in fact, once the album's like mastered and delivered, and I can't change it anymore,
right? Because
I literally would keep changing it forever, probably, if I didn't have a deadline. Because every time I listen to anything I create, I always think, "Oh, that line could be better," or I don't hear, especially mixes, because in every environment you listen to a mix, it sounds different.
Right. Do you do the car test like every other band out there?
Oh, totally. Yeah. The cars, I find the car to be like the most honest place to listen.
Yeah, that's what everyone seems to do, which is funny. You do all that time in the studio and everything, and then you end up in the car with everyone else.
Yeah. But it's a total release for me. And then, I try to kind of stay away from like what's happening with the pre-orders and all of that. At that point, I'm usually writing something new. By that, then I kind of let go, and I'm like, I get on to, I've been writing this piece for musical theater, doing this whole time, so.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So the tour is on sale now and kicks off pretty soon, right? When is the first show?
February 21, right here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Very cool. And so, have you made plans already for what you're going to play, and what can fans expect?
Expect an amazing night of incredible music and songs, and a great show, a great concert experience. I think it's going to be a very special experience. There's quite a buzz going on about this whole thing right now. So, I don't know. I'm just really excited about what God's going to do.
When you're doing these set lists for the solo shows, I know Mike is sort of the guru of set lists for all the bands. Do you let him put yours together as well, or do you take control?
We kick it around. I really do defer to him about a lot of things like that, because I think he's really good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we kicked it around as a band, and we finally came up with a set list that everybody was into.
Very cool. What's the plan after this? Well, you said you're working on musical theater, but any other band projects for later this year, or any ideas of what's going to come after this?
Well, there's a lot of things in the offing. There's, some collaborations that, being talked about that I haven't, with people I've never collaborated with before.
Oh, cool.
So that is coming up, and but I don't really know if it's going to bear any fruit yet, but probably. And I've also been writing some new worship music, some new singer-songwriter stuff. So I'm hoping to do another worship album this year, and maybe a singer-songwriter album for early next year. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
I wanted to just touch on some of the stuff you did over the last year, because there was so much we didn't get to talk about it. I was wondering what Morse Fest was like, once it was over, and what that experience was like, and if plans are to do anything like that again.
Oh man, it was so completely blessed. It was crazy. It went so well. It was just, I don't know, it was just off the chart. It was really well attended, and the Lord really blessed everybody. We got to spend so much good quality time with so many people. For me, it was like, it was a real pinnacle experience. My brother Al came. We had all these great guests, and to do the whole one album, man, particularly, was just like, wow, I'd like to do that again. I loved it. Well, we're hoping to do another one in the fall. I just got to, kind of schedule it out.
Oh, very cool. That would be exciting. What about Flying Colors? I mean, that album was incredible and seemingly very successful. Plans to do anything with that group again in the future? You guys talked about it?
Well, there'll be a live album coming out this year. I believe that the live album that was, there was a DVD film and a whole whoop-de-doo, big package probably from Flying Colors towards the end of the year, I would imagine.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, good, man. So you guys are never slowing down. Just more and more music and more stuff for everybody to like. It's awesome. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and how much I know the fans appreciate it. And I think it's guys like you and Mike that really make this whole genre worth anything. And so new album's amazing, and I will keep promoting it, and hopefully it's a big success for you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roy. I really appreciate it, man.
All right, buddy. Take it easy, and have a great tour.
All right, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to Neal for the interview. We're going to close with the title track off his new album. This is The Grand Experiment. Please check the progreport.com for upcoming news and information. Please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Thanks.
Something divine, stronger than you'll ever know. Round and around it goes, but when it stops, nobody goes, but where it stops, nobody knows. Round and round, round it goes, and this is la 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 la.